Hey everybody, I hope your week has not been as crazy as mine, or at least the last 2 months. Coming into this project, I thought I cannot add 1 ounce of work to my plate anymore. Um, so I was looking at the sermon that I was planning on this Sunday, and thought, well, look at that text and we'll just do this assignment through that text, and I'll do some word studies through it, and the final project will have the sermon at the end of it, and there we go, two birds with one stone. So the text that I selected here, the text that I had selected, came off of the idea of friendship, and they came off from Garden of Gethsemane, and now we're talking here a little bit more about love and friendships and the nature of that love, and so John 15:12 through 17 reads this, if you don't have it up or you aren't familiar. It says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. These things I command you, so that you will love one another." So the whole premise of the whole text is love. So that seemed kind of like a no-brainer. I needed to pull out love because love was the main topic. And it was the first thing he says. He says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." We also hear from John that Jesus says, "You've heard it said that you should love your neighbor as you love yourself, but a new commandment I give you, to love each other as I have loved you." And so what does it mean to have a commandment or a command to love? It doesn't seem like it's something that should be commanded. And so that was another word that really intrigued me. And it was really a simple word. It's really not more complicated than it needs to be. But at least the way that it appears in Scripture is kind of profound to me, at least. And maybe that's the point of this class, is not necessarily to have some huge major revelation about the language itself, but to go through the Scripture and see how one simple word that doesn't really mean anything more than what it is can actually have a significant weight in the way that it's used. But I'll get to that in just a minute. And so we had love, we had life, to lay down one's life. What does the fullness of life mean? I don't know why, but I was gravitated towards that because it seemed like Jesus was putting some serious weight on this, that this is the greatest love, and it's how I've loved you, and it's how you are to love others. And the whole commandment is wrapped into that, loving or laying down one's life as an expression of love. And so, let's dive into that. What does it mean to lay down our life? And then I also broke down to choose and appointed, and I kind of went with those because just being in a holiness denomination, I kind of had certain assumptions about what those could mean, and especially the word appointed really threw me off for a minute, for a good minute. And same with to choose. To choose was an interesting one because it seemed no, it wasn't to choose. I apologize. That one was. Sorry, my logos is running really slow. Oh no, it is still to choose or to appoint. It is appointed. Appointed threw me off in two different ways. So, sorry for the little delay. But let me go back to the top of it, because the commandment is to love one another as I have loved you, and then this is the greatest love. All right, so love, agape, we're pretty familiar, I think, with the term agape. The word study was very tedious as it appears over 115 times just in the New Testament. I did find it very interesting, actually, that one of the shortest books in the Bible, like 1 John, is actually the book that has it the most, and it has it 18 times in those couple pages. So it's John was throwing some serious emphasis on love when he was writing these letters out. But this is agape love, and it doesn't take much to know that this is agape love, the love in action. When we know that Greek has many different forms. I think there's like 4 of them of the word to love, and agape is the common one. We hear it a lot, and just studying it help me to realize the fullness of what that is. We get that it's like an unconditional love, but it's really just a love that is expressed. It is an action of honor towards a person and holding them in high regard. And so it's just acting very respectably and caring and whatnot. And so when I was going through the research and I heard a quote, I think it was just an online article actually. The person says, "This is why you can agape your enemy, but you cannot phileo, as in love, like a affectionate love." And I get that here later, and you'll see why I ended up doing phileo on the side on my own and became part of my paper because I couldn't get away from it. But you can agape your enemies, but you cannot phileo, because phileo is affectionate love, like a brotherly love, and agape is actually like love in action. It's the doing of something that expresses a high regard or honor for somebody. So the greater love, the greatest agape, is to lay down one's life. So life is a great word. If you ever want to look into life and the way that it's used throughout Scripture, it's used in a lot of different ways, because in Greek, which life is psyche, but life is such a broad term when we say it in English. In Greek, it kind of meant the soul of a person. It would also be the word that we get like psychology from. So if you think of psychology, it's not just like your brain, your thoughts, but it's your conscious and your subconscious thoughts. And so life is not just whether or not you have a heartbeat or not, which oftentimes the Scripture is used for. Greater love has no one than this, that someone laid down their life for our friends. We hear it especially in civil service type of duties, cops, firefighters, military, paramedics, laying down and giving up your life for others, for people you love, and service. And while it can certainly mean that, when Jesus said these words, he had not died yet. And he is saying that he's already loved them in this way. So what this life is it's the soul, the personhood, the conscious, the subconscious, the spiritual, the physical. It's the very essence of who you are. What makes you you? Your life. Not the fact that you have a heartbeat or not, but everything about you is your life. What makes you a person. And that's what he's laying down. And he exemplifies this in the washing of their feet, where he makes himself a servant and says, "I've given this an example to you." Right? This is the laying down of your life for your brothers or your friends. And this is friends got me good. Friends is philos, and philos. That is the root word. There isn't a root word for philos, for friend. It's always translated as friend. That's just the word for friend. There are other words where philos is used because there isn't an equivalent, so they use philos in its place. But out of philos is the root word for phileo, which is love, that affectionate love. And this is kind of blew my mind. So like the city of Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, because in Greek it literally means brotherly love. The word love comes from the word friend, not the other way around. You would think that friend would come from the word love, because it's the type of love you would have for a friend, but no. Friend precedes love. And that, just starting to think about how a friendship could, and this has nothing to do with Greek, but what if love is born out of friendships rather than friendships out of love? And it's agape that brings the friendship together, that acts of love towards one another, that bring the affection, that generate a authentic brotherly love of friendship, and then that breeds more love, which is what this text eventually gets to. And he says, "You'll be my witnesses. You'll bear fruit in love." Love is the fruit that will be born, and it's out of friendship with Jesus and with one another. And so the next verse got really heavy because I never really considered it. But the next verse, he says, "You are my friends if you do what I command." I thought, if my friends ever told me that, it'd probably be the last time I talked to them. Just, my 11-year-old daughter, I hear this stuff from her all the time when she comes home from school. So-and-so said I can't be her friend if I do this or that. Or so-and-so said if I want to be her friend, I've got to do this, right? This is what Jesus is saying. Hey, if you're going to be my friends, this is what you got to do. But think about commandments and go back to the Old Testament for a minute. Because we think of like the 10 Commandments. Those then became the law. They were the rules. They were orders. And it's kind of a shall do type thing. It's obligatory. However, the word command is exactly what it is. It's to command, to order, to direct, to give permission to act. So it'd be the same type of military word that you'd use to command troops, right? It'd be a command. But the only time it's ever used in Scripture is in the context of a relationship. So it's only people with a very close relationship that are being commanded. So Jesus commanding angels. They have a special, unique bond, a special, unique relationship. God to his people. The law commands this or commands that. Or it's quoting. Somebody's saying, the law commands that we should do this. And that's where the word only comes up. And then it comes up with Jesus commanding his disciples to do this or that. But his disciples and him also have a very unique relationship. And so command, I've started to find that the way it's used is not in the sense of a rule, but it's rather an outline of an expectations within a relationship. And if you've ever been in a relationship with anybody, whether it's friends, girlfriends, fiance, wife, teachers and students, peers, you always express expectations of one another within it. Some of them are assumed, but as you do life together, some are expressed vocally. And that's all Jesus is doing. He says, this is my expectations, that if I'm going to love you, you're going to love each other. That's the way it works. That's how this love works. And quite honestly, when you think about the way love works, if love is perfect, it's the only way it can work. We can't love somebody and not make friends with them when they're a part of our natural lives, especially when we're talking about people within the church. And this is who he's talking about. He's talking about with one another, your friends, people in your inner circle, people you're around all the time. If you love them with agape love, this selfless, life-giving love, where you've laid down your life for them, a friendship can't help but blossom from that. And in that friendship, you can't help but start to have feelings for them, some kind of sincere, deep affection, a Philadelphia, a brotherly love, right? And so I'm running out of time, so I'm going to get down to choose. Choose was a great word because as you go through Scripture, it doesn't mean like you're going through the store and picking out melons, tapping to figure out which one is ripe. No, it's a selection based on preference. And it happens amongst people. So this word is always used in reference to people, and it's a preferred person that is selected. And then it says, and you are appointed. And appointed means to put, place, or lay. And that threw me off. Not only that, but the spelling of it is nothing close to what comes up in the word search. And that's because it's the aorist form of the verb, and it's spelt differently on purpose because it's only used in this purpose, and it's when referring to a person that has been placed before a task. Always. And that's why it is always translated appointed, because it is a person that has been laid before, not a task laid before a person, but a person chosen by preference to be laid before a task. And you were chosen out of love for the task of loving each other. Thanks for your love, guys. It's been a blessing and a rough semester at the same time. Hear from you soon.